What if I told you that one of today's most charismatic global performers was once on track to compete in the Olympics? Not in music, not in entertainment, but in fencing. A disciplined athlete, a national champion, a future Olympic hopeful. And yet, he walked away from all of it to chase something uncertain, something risky, something most people told him would never work. And today, that decision turned him into one of the most recognizable Asian artists in the world. An entertainer, entrepreneur, designer, and creative director shaping his own universe. This is the story of Jackson Wang.
Hello! 안녕하세요!
But more importantly, this is a story about identity, sacrifice, and reinvention, and how every stage of his life built the man we see today. Because Jackson didn't just become successful, he rebuilt himself again and again, and every time he did, he paid a price. Chapter 1. The Making of a Disciplined Child. Jackson Wang was born on March 28, 1994, in Kowloon Tong, Hong Kong, and his environment was anything but ordinary. His father was an Olympian-level fencer. His mother was a former gymnast for China's national team. Sports wasn't a hobby in his household, it was a legacy. So naturally, Jackson was pushed into athletics early. He started with gymnastics, but quickly transitioned into fencing after being introduced to it by his father. By the age of 10, he was already competing seriously. And this is where we see the first defining trait of Jackson Wang, discipline under pressure. By his teenage years, he was already a rising fencing prodigy in Hong Kong. He trained rigorously, competed internationally, and even lived abroad in countries like Hungary for professional training exposure. At just 12 years old, he won a gold medal at the national level. By 2011, he had accumulated multiple medals in Asian and international competitions and was ranked among the top junior fencers in Asia. On paper, Jackson wasn't just good, he was elite, and he had a clear path: Olympics, scholarships, sports career stability. But inside that structured world, something was quietly forming, a curiosity, a pull towards something else. Chapter 2. The Michael Jackson Effect. When Jackson was in 6th grade, his mother gave him a DVD of a Michael Jackson concert. It was meant to be entertainment while he recovered from illness, but something unexpected happened. He didn't just watch it, he studied it, replayed it, obsessed over it for days. And that moment matters more than it seems, because it introduced him to a completely different form of performance. One where emotion, music, and movement were fused into storytelling. Fencing taught him control, Michael Jackson taught him expression, and that contrast created tension inside him. One side was discipline, the other was creativity. This internal duality becomes one of the most important themes of his entire life. Even today, Jackson often describes himself as someone constantly balancing two worlds, but at that time, he didn't act on it yet. He stayed on the athletic path until fate intervened. Chapter 3. The Life-Changing Decision. In 2010, Jackson participated in a JYP Entertainment global audition. Out of roughly 2,000 applicants, he was selected, and this is where everything changed. He was offered a contract to train in South Korea as a K-pop trainee. But here's the problem. Accepting meant giving up his fencing career. His parents were initially against it, and honestly, it's understandable. He was abandoning a stable, elite athletic future for an uncertain entertainment industry. But Jackson made the decision anyway. In 2011, he moved to South Korea to begin training under JYP Entertainment. And this is the first major sacrifice of his life. He gave up Olympic dreams, sports scholarships, years of athletic identity for something that had no guarantee. And this is where we begin to understand Jackson Wang differently. Because this wasn't impulsive, it was identity conflict. He wasn't running away from fencing, he was running towards something he felt more connected to but couldn't yet fully define. Chapter 4. The Struggle of Training and Identity Loss. Training in Korea was brutal. Long hours, high pressure, constant evaluation. Jackson wasn't just learning how to sing or dance. He was being reshaped as a performer. And he wasn't alone. He eventually debuted in 2014 as a member of GOT7, a boy group under JYP Entertainment. At this point, Jackson becomes something new, a global K-pop idol. But behind the scenes, there was a deeper challenge. He was constantly navigating identity fragmentation. In Hong Kong, he was an athlete. In Korea, he was an idol trainee. In China, he was a rising media personality. In English-speaking markets, he was still unknown. He existed everywhere, but fully belonged nowhere. This is where we see the early formation of his future philosophy. If I don't define myself, the industry will define me. And that becomes the foundation of everything he builds later. Chapter 5, GOT7, Global Exposure and Creative Limits. GOT7 debuted in 2014 and quickly gained international popularity. Jackson stood out immediately, not just for performance, but personality. He became known for variety shows, humor, and his energetic presence. But there was a hidden tension. While GOT7 gave him visibility, it also limited creative control. He was performing inside a system that wasn't fully his, and Jackson is not someone who stays passive for long. So in 2017, he made another defining move. He founded his own label, Team Wang. According to official records, Team Wang was established for his solo creative direction and later expanded into music, fashion, and branding. This is critical because this marks the shift from idol to creator and to entrepreneur. He was no longer just performing concepts, he was building them. Chapter 6, Solo Career, The Birth of Control. Jackson's solo music was different, not just stylistically, but philosophically. Songs like Papillon, 100 Ways, and LMLY weren't just singles, they were statements of identity. He blended Eastern and Western sounds, Chinese and English lyrics, and personal storytelling. But the most important part wasn't the music itself, it was ownership. He wasn't waiting for permission anymore. He was directing his own vision. In interviews, he often emphasized building systems where artists can be independent and seen on their own terms, and this connects directly back to his past, because Jackson knows what it feels like to be talented, but not fully in control, so he built a structure to avoid that for others. Chapter 7, The Psychology of Jackson Wang. To understand Jackson Wang, you need to understand his internal conflict. He is both an athlete trained for precision and an artist driven by emotion. The combination creates a unique psychological profile, high discipline plus high expression. This explains his work ethic. It explains his constant reinvention. It explains why he struggles with stillness. Even his public persona reflects this duality, playful, energetic, but deeply intentional. And that fencing background still influences him. He once attributed his perfectionism and endurance to his athletic training, because in fencing, hesitation means losing, and in entertainment, hesitation means becoming irrelevant. So he moves fast, always evolving, always building. Chapter 8, Global Artist and Cultural Bridge. Today, Jackson Wang is more than a K-pop idol. He is a global recording artist, a fashion designer, a creative director, a business founder, a cultural bridge between East and West. He has collaborated internationally, performed on global stages, and built a brand that exists beyond one industry. But the most important thing about Jackson Wang is not fame, it's direction. Every phase of his life, athlete, trainee, idol, solo artist, was not random. It was evolution through conflict. He didn't follow one path. He constructed multiple identities and fused them into one. Jackson Wang's story isn't just about success. It's about reinvention under pressure, about walking away from uncertainty, about building identity from fragments. And maybe that's why he resonates globally, because in a world where people are expected to stay in one lane, Jackson Wang never did. He kept changing lanes until he built his own road.